Alrighty, we're going in chronological order, and I won't be covering Bemular because I don't know if he's actually got a suit or if that's his physical body, or it's kinda unclear. But since we're going in chronological order, we'll be starting with the Proto-Suit. This is the suit used by Shin Hayata for most of Season 2 and all of Season 1. It was developed by the SSP in order to give Shin the ability to fight aliens, seeing as how he was the original Ultraman and had the ability to use the Ultraman factor, giving him super strength, super speed, and the ability to generate spacium energy. This was pretty much just a test suit made to give Shin a bit more defense and help him fight better in his old age. This is not the end of us talking about Shin, but that is pretty much everything we've got on the Proto-Suit. So, let's go! Alrighty, so, the previous video did way better than I was expecting, at least by my standards. I'm planning on continuing in this Explain series. I'll probably have to come up with a name for this at some point. But today, we'll be handling the Ultrasuits from Ultraman, seeing as how its third season just came out, which is also its final season, and I just really like the show. Real quick, major spoilers for the entire thing, especially Season 3. It just came out, and it's a really good show. Alrighty, before we get started proper, a bit of background on the Ultrasuits. They are suits created in the image of the original Ultraman, so that the new Ultraman can fight against illegal space aliens. No, not that. Or, kinda. Oh, let's just get into it. Alrighty, now we're getting into the meat and potatoes of this. So, something you'll notice throughout the rest of the video is that I have a picture of an original Ultraman there. It's pretty much just to create a comparison between the two, since most of the suits in the series, outside of the Proto-Suit, are based off of an original Ultraman character from the shows before the anime. But going in chronological order, the next suit we see is the original Ultraman armor, worn by Shinjiro Hayata. It's got a lot more weapon systems and such on it than the other suit, than the Proto-Suit. But it's also the most basic of the actual suits. He's got the Ultra Blades that he can create in his palms, that are made of spacium energy, able to cut through most things outside of some alien force fields and metals and such. He's got spacium arm blades that appear on his arms, and once again, made of spacium energy, can cut through most metals, but they can also be used for defense and speed. Since they can cut through most things, defensively, Shinjiro can block most attacks. And with speed, by extending his arms out behind him, he can use them as a booster to fly forward. Most of the boosting functions get forgotten more and more after Shinjiro gains the ability to fly. Don't really need the ability to boost forward when you can just fly forward. But I'm also going to take this time to talk about the test suit from Season 3, mostly because it is essentially the same exact thing as the original Ultraman armor, except supposedly a little more unstable. The design is practically the same. There really isn't any differences in armaments or anything like that. Both of them have the Spacium Ray. When Shinjiro makes his arms into a T, he can fire off the original Ultraman's special attack, the Spacium Beam, which is able to annihilate most enemies, as we see throughout the series. There aren't too many that can stay standing afterwards. Finally, as a bonus, I guess, the Ultraman armor has the ability to teleport itself to Shinjiro using a bracelet that Shinjiro wears at all times. This works for both the original Ultraman armor and the test suit. And that's pretty much it for Ultraman armor. Next, we're moving on to... we have Ultraman version 7, used by Dan Moriboshi. Now, unlike Shin or Shinjiro, Moriboshi does not have the Ultraman factor. He is a normal human. As such, the 7 suit, as it is sometimes referred to, was made more so to keep the user alive and capable of keeping up with a Ultraman factor using character, as well as the aliens that they fight. As such, Dan Moriboshi's 7 suit has a lot more weapons than either Shin or Shinjiro's. He has the Spacium Sword, which pretty much is just a Spacium-enhanced katana, and because of the Spacium energy, it is extremely easy to cut through pretty much anything. The Wide Shot, an energy cannon that can be converted into an energy blade, and it is capable of shooting through a lot of stuff. Its power is pretty much on par with the Spacium Beam, if not a little less. And then lastly, we have the EX rifles. 2 back-mounted, modified Eliminator rifles that Dan can manipulate at will. The 7 suit is based on the Ultraman 7 suit from Ultra 7 and its sequel series. In addition, we don't know how Moriboshi transforms, but he has to have a way. The first time we see him, he's under attack by an alien, dust swarms, and then he's suddenly in his Ultraman 7 armor. And we also see him do this again when he jumps out of the SSP copter in Season 2. He's falling, and then there's a cut, and he's instantly in the 7 armor. So, he has to have a way to do it, we just never see his transformation device. But, let's move on. Alrighty, so, next we have Seiji Hokuto, and his Ultraman version A, or version Ace. This one was developed by Yapul instead of the SSP. The A is supposed to stand for alien, as in developed by an alien. But Seiji mostly just calls it the Ace. It is not as well armed or armored as some of the other suits, being probably the least armored, including the proto suit. but it makes up for it with its rather unique Spacium blade, capable of creating a slash that is able to bisect an alien down the middle. As well as having its rather quick and nimble jet boosters, helping to keep Seiji alive in a fight. The arms can also turn into regular old laser cannons, as seen in the fight with Ace Killer. The version A is based on the original Ultraman Ace, who appears sporadically throughout the Ultraman series. And the way that he teleports his suit to him is through his prosthetic arms. By slamming them together, he can call the suit to him. Outside of that, not much else to talk about. Alrighty, next up we've got Ultraman Jack suit. And while I've been trying not to talk about the manga, because I don't know all that much about it and I have yet to actually read it, the Jack suit pretty much necessitates me having to talk about the manga. Same with the next suit we're going to be talking about. Since it's definitely gotten the largest downgrade from the manga. For one thing, these ones were also developed by Yapul, but in America, for an American military branch. And this suit wasn't developed for a single person in the manga, as opposed to the anime, where it was developed specifically for Jack. In the manga, it was 3 suits developed for a team called MAT, or Mechanized Armor Team. And in addition to that, it had a lot more armaments. It had a railgun, a blade that was stored in the gauntlets, and by making an L with his arms, Jack could fire off something akin to a Spacium ray. In the anime, it has none of that. Not that Jack actually needs it, considering the first time we ever see Jack, he's having a bare-knuckle brawl with an alien and winning. He's probably one of the strongest humans in the series. Once again, being made for a human that doesn't have the Ultraman factor, it's more focused on keeping Jack alive than really just general combat. Fun fact, Yapul was told to make it big and imposing to scare people, and be intimidating to aliens. And, as you can likely guess from the name and how the other suits have been named, this one is based on the Ultraman Jack series, who had the main character, Ultraman Jack. Lastly, his transference device is a bracelet that he wears on his arm. Next up, we have Ultraman Taro suit. And this one also kinda suffers from the transition from manga to anime, but not nearly as much as the Jack suit. In the anime, the suit is pretty much just used as a last resort to keep Taro's power under control before he goes nuclear in the middle of a city. In the manga, it was developed specifically for him to make sure that he could control his powers. It was also developed for a normal human, so despite the fact that Taro does have something akin to an Ultraman factor, the suit is still made for a normal human, and thus isn't really capable of of providing too many armaments. Not that Taro needs them, due to the fact that he can turn into the flaming form that we see in the anime. And it gives him the ability to shoot fireballs and manipulate fire including enough to condense a generator explosion on the alien Golden Fortress. Once again, it was based on the Ultraman Taro suit from the original Ultraman series and its various sequels. Its transformation device is a badge, just like it was in Taro's series. But outside of that, not much else to say. Told you we'd be talking about Shin Hayata again. So, this is the Ultraman version Z, or Zophie, based on the Zophie suit from the original Ultraman, who was, if I'm not mistaken, the original Ultraman's direct superior, so I'd say it's fitting. Now, here's where we run into a bit of a problem. Specifically, Shin only has 5 fights in the entire series, 2 of which he uses the Proto suit, 3 of which he uses the Zophie suit. But the fights are so short and have a lot of outside interference in them, so it's not a very good gauge of the Zophie's abilities. What we do know is it has the ability to use the Spacium Ray, just like Shinjiro's original Ultraman armor, and presumably has the Ultra Blades, but I'm not 100% sure about that. I thought I saw him use it at one point, but it doesn't have the Arm Blades, which makes sense considering this was developed specifically for Shin, and he mostly relied on wrestling moves derived from the original Ultraman series, because he was the original Ultraman. We also don't know what his transference item is, because we rarely ever see him actually use the transference function of the suit, and the only times we do, I don't think we see what his transference item is, and the other time he's already wearing another suit, so we don't get to see it there. But that is pretty much what we've got in terms of the Ultraman version Z. And next I have to give a bit of a preface again. The next 2 are very, very spoilery for Season 3, so if you haven't watched it and intend on watching it, take a break from the video, go watch it. I'll wait. Alrighty, now then. This is the Ultraman suit Marie. Or the Ultraman suit, as Seiji calls it in the anime. This one has had the second least time to breathe in the series. Used by Reina Sayama in Season 3, and I believe for a bit in the manga. Its name is derived from Ultraman Marie, a character from a live show that I tried my best to find more info on, but couldn't find much else. The design is based on the Mother of Ultra from the same series that Taro came from. And the Marie suit has very few armaments. It was developed by Yapul on the orders of Bemular in order to give Reina the ability to fight back against the aliens when it was discovered that she had the Ultraman factor, due to being half alien. Its armaments are pretty much non-existent. It was developed specifically for defense, and thus can create defensive shields out of spacium energy. Being developed specifically for a non-human character, its durability isn't as much of a high priority. Lastly, its its suit transference device is a choker that Reina didn't actually know what it was. She just put it on when Seiji gave it to her, and then was shocked to discover it was an Ultraman suit transference device. Next up, we have the one I have the least to say about, just due to how little we see it. Alrighty, last up, we got Ultraman Perfected Form, or True Form, or whatever the heck you want to call it, because I was not able to find an actual name for this thing, due to the fact that it is so new and we see it for so little. It was designed by Yapul, I believe, on the orders of Bemilar once again, in order to handle the full power of the Giant of Light, which was awakening within Shinjiro. And it is easily the strongest suit we see in the entire series. It's got pretty much the same abilities as the Ultraman armor, but cranked up to 11. Capable of cracking the Zeton visor merely by touching it, and it takes Shinjiro from a curb stomp on Eido's part to a curb stomp on Shinjiro's part. And its output is insanely strong. The only big issue is, once again, we barely get to see it. Its design was made to even more closely resemble the original Ultraman suit. And that's about it. Sorry, how can I forget the most important Ultraman? The emissary of hell, Spider-Man!